you are 100% certain that Coach Deion Sanders was made 100% aware of your diagnosis and the potential consequences of your diagnosis.
Absolutely.
The questions you've all been asking are now being answered. Welcome to another edition of It's All About Who You Know, where influential people talk about sports, faith, and more. Your host is a former Oregon State wrestler, an MMA fighter, and a wrestling coach. Brought to you from Las Vegas, Nevada, here's your host, Caiden Robertson.
One of the funny ones I read today was you could just tell, like, this guy's a dipshit and he didn't actually watch the interview. Which was the case with most people that commented. Like, they didn't even know. Like, they're saying, like, oh, he was kicked off because he wasn't good enough. What people don't realize is that you were on the team after like 90%. You were one of the last 9 guys on the team, right?
I think some of the other, I mean, none of the walk-ons, to my knowledge, got cut. Um, but yeah, and I don't. I'm pretty sure we talked about it, but that I've seen that. I have seen that similar comment, like, oh, he wasn't good enough to play, and
Right.
I mean, this is not true. I mean, I was declared medically ineligible, so even if I wanted to play, the University of Colorado declared me medically ineligible. They were not going to let me play.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll get into that in a second because that is something that I want to highlight because I think, you got a lot of airtime, but I don't think it was highlighted, the medical thing. And I'm going to make my own interpretation of how you were treated. And you don't have to give any feedback on that, but I am going to make my own assumptions. But one of the funny ones I read today was he wasn't wanted, and it is sad, but it's just life. I don't blame Coach Sanders because he is trying to give more opportunities to black men, and your brother was in the way. First of all, 70% of the NFL is black. So you're the minority. Like, if we're going to have diversity and equality, like, I'll just leave it at that. He was also part of an absolute joke of a team, and he definitely didn't deserve respect to be on the team. So, okay, because you're not a starter, which that was not even able to be determined because you had a medical condition where you could literally die on the field. You don't deserve respect. But okay, the world is a rough place, and he has to stop bitching and belly aching. I'm guessing this troll bot meant to say belly itching, but he's retarded, so he messed that up. But is that basically what you've been getting as far as the negativity goes? Like, just stupidity of people not understanding or not have listened to the fact that you were not kicked off the team, you were declared medically ineligible, and they basically ghosted you.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit. I mean, it's very clear that a lot of these people didn't watch it, and yeah, it's like, and that's what's made clear is that they don't understand that I was declared medically ineligible. That
Right.
they don't understand the fact that I wasn't cut. They don't understand the fact that, uh, I was my roster spot was I was removed from the roster because I was medically disqualified.
Right. So why don't you do this? We got some time here. I want you tell the audience what your medical condition is, how it came about, and give that whole layout of the timeline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was having some I talked about this on Jason's show too, but I was having some problems in the weight room. I was just getting lightheaded. And then, one day I actually collapsed. I got out from underneath the barbell and I collapsed. I mean, I fell down. Like, legs just went, and I fell down.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't stop throwing up. Just no matter, like, I was throwing up, I couldn't keep anything down. And this was going on for weeks, probably 3.5, 4 weeks. And I was just, kind of pushing through it. And, finally the trainers had seen some stuff, and they obviously I collapsed. So they sent me to the training staff and told them something's wrong. Like, like, my body's not working the way it should be.
Right.
And so, then they go through tests and, CT scans and MRIs, and then they're like not satisfied with the MRI, so they got to do a contrast MRI. Basically they put fluid through my veins so they can highlight stuff in the MRI. And it's just it happened. I probably did 4 or 5 MRIs in the span of a month.
What did they originally think you had? Like a heart murmur or something?
Well, I do have that. That's
Oh,
what I
okay.
was.
Okay.
So they sent me to the cardiac,
Right.
and then they trying to stress echoes, stuff like with monitoring my heart, and they ended up finding an arrhythmia in my heart, which was giving me problems. It was affecting my blood pressure, and that's why I was having the stuff going on with my head. That's why I was getting lightheaded and I actually fell. But so in the MRIs that they had seen something in my neck, and they didn't know what it was. They thought maybe it was an injury or whatever. So coming up on spring break, right before spring break, they sent me down to right before spring football was about to start. So right before the pads are about to come on, they sent me down to Denver. Like, we're going to send you to the neurosurgeon, just precautionary.
Right.
And he'll clear you so that you can come back after spring break and start football with the pads on. And I'm excited. I want to get back on the field and prove what I've been talking about. And so I go down there, and I'm not expecting anything. They take my blood pressure, just basic entry stuff when you first get there. And he comes in and he's read the MRI. He's already seen it. He has his own, belief of what's going on. And he basically tells me, hey, this is what you have in your C1 cervical spine, what you have in your spinal cord is what is called a cavernous malformation. And what those cavernous malformations are is they're a clumping of veins and arteries and well, not arteries, but veins and other tissue that's just not supposed to be there. And so, like, to put it in the simplest terms that people might understand is, it's a lesion or like a benign tumor, but it's because of where it's at in my C1 cervical spine that makes it such an issue. And, he tells me, like, with these cavernous malformations, they have the ability to rupture. And because of where yours is at, again, in my C1 cervical spine, if it ruptures, you'll die. Like, you'll lose it. You'll lose function of everything below the neck. You won't be able to control your respiratory system, and you'll die. And like, if nobody's there to give you assisted breaths, like, you're gonna die. And he wasn't, and I'm super thankful for him, being just blunt and straightforward, because I don't really want him to beat around the bush at all. But he just gave me. And then so he goes into what you do about it. I mean, you can have surgery, and then you risk the potential harm of your body and your basic livelihood. I mean, because you touch that spot in the body the wrong way, and I mean, you could become a quadriplegic, you could die, you could lose functional limbs, like you could lose you could have neurological damage, like I talked about. So it's just a big issue. And then, or you could leave it there and just hope that it doesn't go off. But I mean, that's basically the rundown of what happened.
Okay. So now during all this time, you're still technically on the football team, correct?
Yeah, I'm still going to everything I can. The only things I missed were, stuff for doctor's appointments. If I missed something, I was at a doctor's appointment. And so I was still going to film meetings. I was still going to team meetings. I was still going to, everything. I was still going to watch practice. Got up early in the morning to go watch conditioning. You name it, I was there.
So now at this point, what kind of interaction, if any, have you even had, and how long? So what kind of interaction have you had with Coach Prime, and how long was he the coach at that point when you're getting this diagnosis?
Interaction. I never spoke to him.
You never, okay. So I remember you saying this on Jason, but you never actually had a conversation, never shook his hand, nothing.
No.
Wow. And what is the interaction with the coaching staff that he brought in as you're going through this? Is there like, hey, Caiden, we hope you're doing okay. Like, keep us updated, keep coming to everything? What is the interaction there like?
So I told my position coach, linebacker coach, what was going on, and I basically just illustrated everything, illustrated to him what I just told you, um, and he was taken back, obviously. And then in that same conversation, I told him, hey, with everything that's going on, there's a lot to figure out, between me and my family, and getting second opinions, and figuring this whole situation out. What's the best plan of action?
Right.
So I expressed to him that, hey, I would love to have a conversation with Deion, talk to him, let him know what's going on with the family, where we're at, where our heads are at with, what to actually do. And then, after we figure everything out, let me in the meantime, let me be a part of the team, right? I want to help out, be with the linebackers, just be associated.
Right.
And I never got that conversation. And also, I want to make it clear that, he was getting it from the linebacker coach, Coach Hart, and then the training staff they give him medical reports every morning. They give him,
So
who's reserve, who's got what, who's sick on that day,
right.
he
So
had my back.
let me get this straight, okay? Just because I know, but I want everybody listening to know. You are 100% certain that Coach Deion Sanders was made 100% aware of your diagnosis and the potential consequences of your diagnosis.
Absolutely, without question.
So okay. So
It's the training staffs. They're obligated to tell him in the meetings each morning that they have. And this is what I was told. I was told this by the training staff.
Yeah.
The people that I meet on a day-to-day basis,
Right.
that this information has been given to Deion, and and that was one of the first things too. They asked me, we gotta get the information out, but we can't give that unless you say it's okay. And so I said, yeah, absolutely. I give you consent, and I sign my signature,
Right.
giving consent to reveal the information to Deion.
Okay.
And so I was always on the medical list, or whatever they have there, that they give to Deion each morning.
Right.
The information was given to him in two different directions, if you will. It was given to him by my position coach, my linebacker coach, and then it was also given to my big training staff.
So this entire time, Deion is made aware of everything that's going on with you, even the fact that you could potentially, if you take a hard enough hit or hit somebody hard enough, have like a Damar Hamlin situation where you stop breathing on the field and somebody has to come and resuscitate you. He knows this.
To my knowledge, yeah. To my knowledge, they conveyed all the information to him that was conveyed to us.
Wow. Okay. So you have a player that could potentially die on the field. And what interaction, or not interaction, but what kind of communication was after this diagnosis?
With Deion himself, or
No,
with
no, no.
the training staff?
You've never had any type of communication with Deion, correct? Since before, nothing.
No.
So what kind of communication was there? Because eventually you're off the team, right?
Yeah.
So leading up to that, how does that happen? And what happened before that, after the diagnosis?
Yeah, basically they just told me, we're gonna declare you medically ineligible.
Okay.
We're not gonna let you play anymore. It's just you're too high risk, which
Okay.
is, at this point, at that point with the diagnosis, that's understandable, right? As much as I hate it, as much as I, worked to be there and wanted to play,
Right.
that makes sense.
Sure.
As far as that other stuff goes, I had conversations with linebacker coach, strength coaches, and they asked me questions like, what do you want your involvement to be like, basically? I said, well, hey, I want to be involved. I want to be involved as much as I can.
Right.
Whether it's, I'm throwing the football in into those or, helping out just any way I can. And, they basically said, I don't think that's a bad idea.
Okay.
And then, so obviously you go home, you're with this type of diagnosis, like you get home
Yeah, I remember. I remember.
and then you go into things. Yeah. And then you get into things like, what do we do next? Right. And that's, it just makes sense to get a second opinion. So that's what we did. This whole time, I had reached out, saying, hey, I'm home for the summer. Obviously, I can come back if need be, if I need to be involved. And then, no response, nothing back there. And then, so I get back and, and the next semester starts, this semester that I'm currently in.
Mhm.
And so I talked, my academic coordinator, and I'm like, so when can we start doing everything? And, I get back to, how things were academically. And she's like, well, what are you talking about?